Good morning. It's Stage Door Theater Podcast for Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. You know, we are primarily an entertainment show. That's what we do. We just talk and goof around and mess around. But sometimes we like to provide education along with the entertainment. And today is one of those episodes. Today we're going to be talking to moms, parents of theater people, young adults who want to go into musical theater and are applying for college and trying to get into college, and what's the process like and how do you do it, and all the complicated things, because it's nothing at all like trying to get into a normal college. It's competitive, very competitive. And we have a nice mix here. We have Jenny. Jenny has somebody whose son has graduated recently. We have a mom, Erin, whose son is in first year of college going on. And then we have Holly, who is my lovely wife, who has a son who is getting into the program right now and has not selected a school, or should I say a school has not selected him. So we are going to sit down and talk about everything here. The drinks are strong because I think we might need it in this particular episode. So hopefully there's not too much crying or upsetness or anything going on.
I think if you're going to hear crying, it's going to be from the person who's in the midst of hell.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot happening, and we have people out there that are aspiring stars or aspiring tech people and all that stuff. So we're going to start with the person who is currently in the hunt right now. So we're going to talk to Holly and say,
"Oh Lord, baby Jesus."
Yeah. So all of you two, I want you to talk all over each other though too. It's completely fine. So don't feel like you're being rude at all. But so Holly, Gabriel started doing this. When exactly did he start the whole process? Do you even remember?
He was 4 years old.
Ooh.
No, I mean,
oh my gosh.
no,
but it's true though. He did start.
No,
this
I mean,
when he was
honestly,
4
I
years
think
old.
I could probably speak for everybody when it's like, technically this entire thing has been ongoing their entire life. So I feel like all the stuff that they've been doing for their entire life has prepared them for this gauntlet of stuff. But no, okay, so realistically though, he started prepping the beginning of his junior year. He is in the middle of his senior year now. He started prepping the beginning of his junior year.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, what do you mean prepping? What
Yeah,
does prepping
so
mean?
like he would do these practice pre-unified workshops. So it was like in preparation for how's an audition going to go? What's it going to look like?
All right,
They're
using
talking
words,
to
using
you.
words though, like pre-unified. Like what does that even
So
mean?
unifieds is it's something where a lot of the musical theater programs of the colleges come together in select cities, New York City, Chicago, and Los Angeles, and they spend like a week-ish of time there for all of the kids in the United States who are auditioning for these programs to be able to audition in one place during like 1 week.
Okay.
So that's what Unified
Stands for National Unified Auditions, but anybody who's doing this just calls them Unified, and it's just easier to clean it up.
Yeah. So
And they have them in New York and LA and Chicago.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. All three places. We're doing Chicago this year.
Why aren't you doing New York and Chicago?
New York just happens to fall the weekend that he is doing Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime at school.
But you can do both if you want.
You can technically do as many as you want, because some schools will be at like maybe New York and Chicago, but not Los Angeles. And there's some schools that are at Los Angeles, but not New York and Chicago. So that's kind of totally up to everybody else.
Okay. So you said he started doing these pre-unified things. What the heck is that?
So it was, it's everything that you're doing too is just like, you have to pay a little bit extra. It's like a workshop where it's hosted usually by different like theater groups or different kind of like Broadway international groups, that foster kids' musical theater talents and stuff
Or like the
that.
college audition coaches.
Yep,
Yeah.
college audition coaches, and they come together, and it's really a practice. That's kind of what it is. It is a practice for them so they can see what that process looks like before it's actually counting towards what it really needs to count
A practice for the student, for the potential
Yes.
student. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's for the student, and it's a practice so they know what to expect when it is time for them to get up in front of a college and audition.
So that was the beginning of what he was doing, though?
That's
where he started?
how it started.
Okay,
for
but
him.
not really, though. Again, we're talking about like kids who have been doing this for a while. They've been prepping for a while. Like Jen, your son Johnny, he was doing stuff before that when it came to just getting to become a better dancer and to do all these things. So, I mean, how did you know he had to do all that crap?
Well, Jonathan's story is different because we took ballet with him in the hopes that he was going to be a better goalie for soccer. Oh. And that's how it all started.
Hey,
To make
that
him more
works.
flexible? Yeah.
Right. We were going to look for scholarships for soccer. He was an amazing goalie. And then when he went to TSA and he started doing dance classes there, and about after 7th grade, after he was a lead in one of the shows, and after he was a lead, he was like, well, I think I'm giving up soccer.
Yeah.
Okay, tear your
Was
heart
that
out.
13?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, it was right
I saw
after.
that.
I
that.
saw 13 too that
Yeah.
he was in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
So-
actually saw the recording of that.
that's what I saw.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
That still counts.
Yeah.
Because I didn't
So-
know who you were at that
Right,
time. So
right. And that was right after that is when our kids were in a show together. So anyway, he went to school, started dancing all the time. Then the teachers were like, well, maybe you need to send him into the real world and dance with outside of school.
Uh-huh.
So he started taking ballet at Luminescent Theater, which is no longer in existence. A gal that used to work with the Toledo Ballet started her own company, and she was amazing.
was he 13? Because we were talking about 13 music.
Yes.
So he
Yes.
started hardcore dancing when he was 13.
Right.
Okay. And
But he had been doing it.
But you didn't know
before
that he was going to need to do all this hardcore
no.
dancing for college yet, though. So this is just something that you just wanted. He wanted.
We
to
honestly did
Right.
because of Johnny. So,
do. Yeah.
like, we got Gabe started obviously later than we wanted to, but we started to see the writing on the wall with Johnny.
Right. Exactly. And that's when I talked to you
Well, he
guys
was only
early
in the eighth
on.
grade, so it wasn't like he started too much later.
When I saw how talented Gabe was,
Oh, stop.
I pulled you guys aside and I said, listen, dancing now. I know where he's headed. And if he doesn't, what is it going to hurt him to dance? But it's so important a lot of times to be a dancer. And that's how I think Jonathan got so many looks in college or from colleges, was because he was killing it in the
Right.
dance scene.
And Mitchell, Aaron, he was a huge dancer too.
Mitchell did not start performing until he was 13.
Okay. Performing in general.
Yeah, I mean, he played piano for years, and
Okay.
he was a pianist and played cello.
What was he?
A pianist.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I told you, we're trying to keep it light here. We're trying to keep it light.
And played cello. And I had been trying consistently at
plays
that.
cello too?
Yes,
I didn't
well,
know that.
a little. I mean,
I wanna
he's
see some videos
definitely
of
more
that.
piano.
Yeah.
But I had tried for 14 years at that point to get him or my older son Peter, who was 14 at that point, to do theater. I got Peter to do one show, and he was like, "This was stupid. I hated it." And I was like,
Oh.
"All right."
I don't
And
know if
so-
I like him.
I know, right? Yeah, he's not a theater person. And then
It's like, well, you don't know anything.
yeah, right? Yes. Not his cup of tea. And so, but he plays violin, so that's his thing.
Okay, well, that's
So Mitchell was 13 and he was running track, and I said, hey, and I thought, this is because I would say, like, there's a show coming up. We want to do this. You want to do this? And they were like, no, stop asking. We're not going to be like you. We're not a theater person. Stop asking. And then finally I thought, this is it. I've been doing this for 14 years and this is the last time I'm doing it. And I said, hey, when you're done with track practice, you should swing by the gym and audition for Beauty and the Beast. If you do, I'll give you a new iPad.
Oh my God.
And he said,
The
I told
blackmail.
you, I don't want to do it. Stop bribing me. And I said, okay, that's it. That's the last time I'm asking. And I was waiting for him outside, and he texted me and said, I'm going to stop by the gym and audition. I'll be out in a minute. And I was like, what? And if any 13-year-old boy auditions for a show, if he's never been in a show before, he's going to get the lead.
Yeah, I was going to say he got the napkin,
So
right?
he
Dancing
was
napkin.
the Beast, right? of
Oh, he
course.
was seriously
Of course
the
he was.
Beast?
Of course he was, because that's how
He
that
was
goes.
he was the envy of all of the girls who've been doing it since
Of
they were 7
course.
because
Of
they're like, the
course.
boys always get stuff.
Yep. And so he was bitten by the bug and he was hooked. And so, he did that, and then he was in Sound of Music with the high school.
Of course he's bitten by the bug. He was the star, and everybody was looking at him.
Right? I mean, that's all you need is all the applause, right? It's so addictive. And so he did a few shows, and I started saying, like, okay, so you go to a local public high school, you can be in all of the Catholic girls' school shows. So you should be doing like a 3B or summer show. You should do Notre Dame in the fall, St. Ursula in the winter, and then Mommy in the spring, and you should do 16 shows in high school. Like, I had the whole thing planned.
I love this. You're like, let me get your itinerary.
Correct. And, keep playing piano.
This is why I have the stage moms here.
Yep. Yes. I think they call us momagers.
Thank you.
Right?
That's
Thank you.
pretty accurate. Have you seen my posters? I'll have to show you the the pre-screen posters I have made up.
So I had like a whole plan, but I kept letting him lead. And, like deep inside, at least for me, like there's always this idea of if they quit, it'll break my heart and it will be the best thing that ever happened to all of us. Like they need to get out of this. It's so difficult. But if they, right, like when some of the best acting books I had read when I was studying said, if you can think of any single solitary thing you could do beside this, do it.
Oh,
because
so encouraging for the listeners.
1% of people in the acting union are working at any given time. It is an exceptionally difficult field, but you can parlay the skills and talents that you have in this field. I absolutely believe in a fine arts education in high school, in college, even if you never step foot on a stage again, because it changes you. It makes you better at everything.
And the funny thing is about that, Erin, is that I actually had, since we're in the quote dark period right now, this is the period where you've done a majority of your auditions and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting for like you'll get the no's right away and then you're just waiting for the yeses. So we're in that period. But I did ask Gabe, I'm like, you wouldn't be happy if it was anything but this, would you? And he said, no. I'm like, even if you were making mediocre money, you wouldn't be happy if you had a career where you were making a ton of money, but it wasn't in theater. And he said, no, I wouldn't be happy. And I'm like, that's how it is.
Well, and I've come to accept, especially as a therapist, right? Like at any point in college, like we have a mutual friend with a daughter who recently was like, I'm out. Halfway through her freshman year, she was like, I'm done. And I think, great. So like you can't know until you run toward it. And at any point I've said, I wanted him to know that there's no pressure on him to continue in the program. If he changes his mind, he can switch schools at any time. He can switch majors at any time, because I don't want him to feel like because he went through this intensive training the last 2 years of high school and we spent all of this money and time getting him ready and we got him a coach and he did all these auditions. I don't want him to feel beholden to us or the program. I want him to know he's got the freedom to do what he wants at any time.
No, I told Gabe, you're doing it. I was like, nope. After all this crap, there is no way in you're changing your mind, bro. I'm like, I don't think so.
Okay, wait. So listen. So like a month before Mitchell left for college, he came into my office at home and he was like, so I have a question for you. And I'm like, sure, bud, whatever, right? And he's like, so if I decide after a few months that I want to switch my major. And I was like, man, I should have seen that coming, because he's a musician primarily. But I said, absolutely, right? But I'm thinking, mostly because for me it is the money that the school costs. And then you think, but I'm right, like, let it go. He's like just believing in the universe. They land in the right school. They're with the right people. They're learning what they need to learn. And it all works out in the end.
So if somebody's a senior, they're screwed. They're already behind the eight ball.
Not guys especially, but not talented girls either. I mean, anyone's really talented. Also, I think, at least we all think, I don't know, like there's these top schools. You want so badly for your kid to get picked there because it says so much about their future and their chances of employment if they go to those certain schools. But we all know that there's tons of people on Broadway and performing all over the country who didn't go to those schools.
I'm hoping for any school.
I know. I remember
I'm like, please, someone love him.
I know.
As much as his mother loves him.
Right. So Erin is, a bit relieved because she's got her son at least in a school somewhere. Holly and I are still sweating it out, but Jen, you're like past this program. You're already onto something. So have you seen? And the reason why I wanted to have you on is still you're pretty much connected pretty good with what's still happening, even though your son is done with this process. You are still very well informed as to what is needed for getting into these colleges. How much have you seen as like a change and a difference between, how long has it been? 6 years? 5 years? 6 years?
Jonathan graduated in 2017 from high school.
Okay.
and
So
just
it'll be
graduated.
5 years then.
Yeah, just graduated last May from college.
And how much of a difference between then and now do you think you've noticed when it comes to college auditioning?
Well, a lot, because I think the pandemic changed everything. I will say we didn't have the enormous amount of auditions that you have to pre-screen for.
Friggin' pre-screens.
Yeah, and honestly, it's probably a good thing for the colleges. I don't know that it's necessarily a good thing for the kids.
Okay.
But I do know, I talked to the director at Wright State, and he said they'll never go back.
Wright State is where Johnny graduated
Right.
from, correct?
They'll
Yeah.
never go back to not having pre-screens. Well, yeah, when you've got that many applicants to narrow it down.
Right. And the problem with Jonathan's class had over 500 kids show up over like 3 weekends, and they had to select. They only take like 12 or 13 kids, and they had to select 12 or 13 from 500 plus.
And that's like only half of those is boys. So
Right.
I mean, you're
Right.
looking at like 6
Not even,
spots.
probably not even half. Right?
No,
Right.
she's saying
Or no,
spots they
more.
take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
right,
spots
right.
they take. So if you're looking at, let's just use Michigan as an example. Michigan maybe selects 24 students, and they have thousands of kids apply. And then of those 24 students, they're going to take half dudes and half ladies.
Right.
And then of that mix, they're also going to make sure that they include a lot of diversity in those mixes.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
naturally.
sure.
so you got to make sure that there's people of color in there and mix it all up as best you can. So automatically, well, I'm a white blonde girl. I'm going to one of 12 spots. Half of those are going to go to people of color probably. So now I'm one of 6 white girls in all of the University of Michigan's entire thousands of people that have applied.
And like
So-
probably 75% of the people who applied are blonde white girls.
Yes.
Oh yeah. That's-
Yes.
Well, and but the nice thing is that the nice thing is to think about, especially for me, since we're still going through this process, is let's say that they only take, maybe each program takes maybe only 4 people that, like Gabe. Well, each program takes 4 or 5 people that are going to be close to his size and what he looks like, and maybe tenors. So, I mean, I'm trying not to think of it in terms of this one program only takes 4 guys, but more of like, okay, we've applied to said many programs, and each program is going to take 4 to 8 guys. So I'm trying to
So you try to play the numbers game like, well, if he
I'm trying
applies
to
to
think
20
positive.
schools, then that's 20 times 4. So that's 80.
You're
He
just
has
in
a-
the worst part of waiting and wondering who's going to call, and are they going to get any acceptances? And what if they only get 2 and you don't like either of them? Like you're in a hard waiting game. That's the worst. And then like the coaches are all like, it always works out. They land where they're supposed
screw
to.
them, right?
And you're like, blah.
Oh wait, no, wait. My favorite is
Honestly.
as much as I appreciate the colleges and I appreciate the people that talk to us about it, it's you're not really auditioning for us or for us. We're auditioning for you. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
101.
not true.
Yeah,
I'm like,
101.
come on
Did not
now.
hear that once.
Yeah.
Although I
girl.
will say, once we narrowed it down for Mitchell and we started traveling the country to look at schools, they were hungry to have him once we got there. So they had already invited him, and we got there, and they knew now we had to pick, and they were one of them. And so once they want him, then they're like,
Once you
courting
get a
you.
yes.
Oh yeah, they're
once you-
showing you around, telling you all the amazing things, why you should be there, what's so great. Do you want to sit in on a dance class? What do you need to make a decision?
Holly,
I
go ahead. Sorry.
I have a question for both of you, because I know my opinion on the situation, because I feel like we all know our children fairly well. And I know, technically speaking, I know that Gabriel wants a program that's strong in all 3, that's strong in singing, that's strong in acting, but that's also strong in dance. However, I know that he wants to find a place that really cares about him as a person
Right.
and a human being. And
How
he
do you
wants
know
to feel
that,
like,
though?
but he wants to, I know he wants to feel like he's part of a family. That's what he wants. I know that's what he wants.
Right.
And as a mom, I want him to feel like when he's years out of that program, that this is a place that even 10 years down the road, he can talk to somebody about anything because they were his second family.
Right, but how do you know that, though? How do you know?
I mean,
in
first
these
of all, let's
schools?
just say theater people. Every show I was in, it felt like that. Like, these are theater
Yeah.
kids.
Well, the
theater
kids are.
like
I'm talking
that.
about the programs,
Sure.
though, because they all when we talk to them, they're all great.
Of course.
You know, so you go on the internet and you try and do some research, figure out what the schools are, and it's like all these schools. You're like, well, who says it? Is this just like a blog that somebody just wrote in their spare time? Is it really the top school? If I know.
Well,
It's
when we were finally deciding, Mitchell got 5 offers, and he wanted to be as close to New York City as he could be, so we eliminated the Chicago program. And so of the 4 that were left, his coach suggested that one was the least strong of them. We should dump it.
Okay, so
And
you leaned on your coach's advice in that
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Okay.
and because and he tried to be really neutral, but I was like, come on, which of
No,
these?
why was he trying to be neutral?
Well,
You're paying this guy.
Because he wanted to make sure he got into a school that he felt like it was family.
And you know what?
And he liked the
we
area,
got
or
the
he
same
liked the
thing.
teachers.
We
Right.
got the same thing from our coach. We're already getting emails saying, "How's everything going? How are you feeling about things? Have you gotten offers? Great. If not, let's look at your options." And when everything's all out on the table, let's sit down and talk about what we think is the best option and the best fit for Gabe.
I'm going to go back. I know I'm interrupting here, but pre-screens was brought up. Holly, what the heck are pre-screens?
Okay, so
We got to assume anybody
the funny
listening to
thing
this is brand new. They
had-
don't know.
All 3 of us moms had a little sidebar going on beforehand, so it's kind of interesting. Okay, so Johnny's been out of the process
Sidebar,
for
heavy on the bar.
yeah, right now it is heavy. I'm gonna need a refill on this, bro.
I
I've
brought
been
you
through
the
a lot
I
this
brought
month.
you the container right over there.
Oh my God, you know me so well.
The tumbler's right
No,
next to you.
it's been rough. I've
Take a
gained
drink,
all
Erin.
the weight back that I lost. It's bad. I need drinks. I could be drunk every day. It's not fun. Buckle up,
Stressful.
guys. Buckle up. So, Jenny, you've been out of the process for 5 years. Erin, you've only been out of the process for 1. I know that we talked to somebody else too recently that her daughter's been out of the process for like 3-ish years. So much has happened in the last 5 years. Now, when Jonathan went through this process 5 years ago, what's a pre-screen? There wasn't pre-screens.
Well, they did do pre-screens, but it was for some big programs like Michigan. Jonathan was not interested in Michigan. I don't know why. He just said, that's not for me. He researched it, and I let him do a lot of the stuff on his own. He liked Point Park. He got into Point Park. We went and had accepted students day. That's when he said, I made a mistake. We had already chosen that school. We paid the money. We lost it. But he knew after visiting that, and we didn't visit before we did the audition. Now that's what the norm.
Yeah.
You know, now when you get there, what if you hate it?
Oh,
How
we
many
didn't visit any
pre-screens?
schools until he was accepted to
No,
them
heck
because
no.
I didn't want to go fall
Well,
in love.
I mean, that's what I mean.
I see, yeah.
We didn't visit until we had already accepted. We already accepted, and we were going to the spring, it was like an orientation.
Like you
Wow.
accepted.
Wow.
You got a dorm room.
Yeah.
In
Wow.
Point Park. Point
Right.
Park is in Pittsburgh, so
Right.
You had
So
driven a
we're
little bit
there. We get in the car, and he goes, I made a big mistake. This is not for me.
Oh,
and
boy.
I went, oh, are you kidding me?
But for pre-screens,
I would cry,
how many
like,
pre-screens
literally
did he have
cry.
to take?
He did one school that was pre-screens, and that was the one that Andrew went to. I can't think of it.
Ithaca.
Ithaca.
Okay, now let me
yeah.
explain what pre-screens are, since nobody's telling people what
Okay,
the pre-screens are. These colleges require that you take videos of yourself singing and dancing and all sorts of other little things that they are keen on, and so that you have to have, like Gabriel has to have 7 songs. He has to have a classic song, a classic ballad, a classic up-tempo, a modern ballad. You know, he has to have a pop song. Then he has to have all these dance things that they make you do. Okay, then you
and they each have
all
don't
the
forget,
monologues.
they have to be a certain length. They have to be filmed a certain way. You have to have it like 3/4 up. You have to slate, which means like you have to say your name and like what the song is. You have to have all these very
and where do you
each-
upload them to?
And it uploads to a website called Accepted
Right,
now.
so you got to join this website called Accepted.
Oh, and some schools are different. Some schools, they're like, no, we don't want 32 bars of a song. We want 16.
Of course.
So you end up submitting, and like, for example, you have to apply to most schools, you have to apply to the program. Like academically apply to get into the university.
Right.
And then you're paying a fee to apply to the university.
And
So
how
there's
much is that?
I mean, applications can range anywhere from $30 to $80 depending on the program.
Just to get into the school
Just
first.
to academically get accepted.
So if you say you want to go to Point Park, you have to at least apply to the school first.
Yep.
And pay the $80 or whatever it is to get in there. Then you have to pay a pre-screen.
Now you're talking
Yep.
about pre-screens. Now pre-screens, same thing. It can be anywhere from $30 to some of the more prestigious ones
Who
are
paid $30?
$150 just to send in a video for them to go. Now,
No.
Thank you.
like, thank you. Now,
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your $300 you
and
gave
this
us.
is the thing I think that people do need to understand, and that I'm having a hard time with, because look, as parents, we all love our kids. We think they're talented. We think they're amazing. But sometimes getting a no doesn't necessarily reflect on their talent.
Right.
It is, they don't need a boy who's 5'7", who has sandy strawberry blonde hair, and who's a tenor this year.
And looks like a younger person.
Yeah,
like-
and who has
yeah.
a baby face. Sometimes they don't need that. Sometimes they're like, look, we need more guys that are baritones, that are going to be our lead romantic guys. So I'm trying to resign myself to the fact that it's not personal,
Yes.
because I'm like, my poor baby, why don't you love him? And it's like, okay, that's not always what it is.
But that's the pre-screen. So the pre-screens are these videos. If you even want to go to Michigan, they're going to require a certain set of videos sent to them in a certain way, exactly the way they ask for them. And then a lot of these schools will also require a separate, different than. Okay, that's the beautiful part.
Michigan wasn't through accepted. Michigan, you had to send it through their website exactly the way they wanted. So the thing is that you end up recording at least 15 to 20 plus different videos of them singing and doing monologues.
Yes.
And now we're not even talking about the musical theater artistic essays, because
And you need a wild card.
you need
yeah.
dance videos, and
What's
then you
a
need
wild card,
ballet
Aaron?
technique.
You basically have to shoot a movie of your kid that's 1 minute or less that shows every amazing thing about them in 60 seconds.
We didn't even do that.
Oh my
Yeah,
So
we did.
we did it, but we didn't do that. We didn't
yeah.
show any of that
Ours
stuff.
was Mitchell was playing piano, and then he was doing gymnastic flips,
We didn't
and then
do
he
any of
was rollerblading and running and biking and lifting weights and like.
Oh my
we were,
gosh,
like,
we got to update Gabe's
slam
wild
that
card.
thing in there.
We
We
did.
didn't do any of those
Okay,
things.
we actually did. We did one of Gabe doing his aerials where he's flipping in the air without touching the
Right,
ground,
yep.
and then he did like tap and
Did you get a video of him doing like 500 push-ups? Because he can do that. Get that
Actually,
in
the
there.
funny thing is that kid is small, but
That's what I mean. Get a
he's
shot of him doing 500 push-ups.
He's like
You
an
know, it's
ant.
like ridiculous. Yeah, he's like an ant.
He's
That's a
like
good
an ant.
description.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pick
start
up
with
quite a bit.
498, 499.
Yeah, they don't need to see all
Hey,
500.
by the way, I'd like to point out, I told him he should do a video of him doing 20 to 30 plus pull-ups.
Pull-ups too. Yeah, that's the
That's
other thing.
amazing.
He's strong as all
Well,
get out.
and
Well,
so
something
we
else
don't-
to consider with the pre-screens too is if you have a college audition coach or you go to certain workshops, they'll bring and you pay enough, they'll bring in people from a bunch of different schools, and some of those schools will say, if we like you, we'll offer you a pre-screen. You don't even have to send your video in. At this workshop, we'll say you've been approved. You can just audition for our school. You can skip the pre-screen.
Where'd you get your coach?
I asked around on some of the parent pages on Facebook.
What
and
parent pages?
Gosh, I'm trying. It's like literally just look up like musical theater parents.
Gotcha.
And there's like musical theater parents, college audition parents, musical theater performance kids, and
I
college
couldn't stay in
auditions,
those Facebook forums. Those musical theater parents
you can
got
also-
crazy.
Yeah, you
Those momagers.
Yeah, right.
There was
you can
way
pull
too
them
much
out of your
drama.
feed though, so that you don't have to see all the posts. But then when you need access, you can go in and post and get info, which is what I did. Because sometimes those pages are hopping. You don't want like 7 posts every 2 hours. But yeah, we found him there. I called. We had 2 calls that we did, like a FaceTime call with one female, and weren't feeling
And
it.
they're local?
No. One was on one side of the country, and one's like on another part of the
Oh,
country.
so
Like, I
all
don't
the
wanna
all the
identify them.
coaching that he had to do then was
Virtual.
Zoom virtual.
Every audition Mitchell did was virtual. He never saw a person ever in person for
Well,
pre-screens or auditions.
he did. He did his right smack dab in the middle of the
Yep.
time of COVID.
Yep.
And Gabriel's is half and half.
Right,
So
right.
half of
I
his
just saw
are
the list
virtual.
of which ones are.
And half of his are, and they're changing. Like he was supposed to, one of the ones that he was supposed to do auditions he was supposed to do in person at Chicago Unifieds was Penn State. Well, they have now switched everything virtually, so we changed the date because now you have to worry about how's my Wi-Fi connection going to be when
Sure.
we're in a hotel in Chicago.
We had like our whole entire kitchen. I mean, he auditioned and rehearsed and did workshops for schools all over the country within, a 10 by 10 square foot
Yeah, we
space
have
in our
that all
kitchen.
set up
Yep.
too. Holly has
and
a
they're
ring
used to
light.
it. That's the good news. I mean, they worked out all the kinks last year, and they did it all last year, so they know how
But
to
also,
do
what Jen was saying earlier, though, is that wasn't necessarily a thing. So
I
now
think that was a
it's
good
crazy.
thing for you, Jenny, and for
I do.
Jonathan, because I really, truly believe that being in person is where you can really sound the best and your personality can shine through. So,
Well, and one of the things that, I don't know if you know that Erin was a musical theater major in college, and I actually had her help Jonathan do some things, and she really helped him bring out emotions. That was one of the things that I think he really got from her, was being
we
able
might need to
be
give you a call.
like when he's saying, from what do you call it?
I don't know. I'm cutting all this.
Little Mermaid,
Oh.
Prince
Oh, yeah.
Eric.
Uh-huh.
Where did she go? I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, her voice.
Her voice, what a great song.
He sang that for auditions here in Toledo. He was actually in Disney. He had a plan for a year ahead of time to sing, to go to Disney with friends. Well, that was the same time as the audition. So I said, well, you just need to sing her voice, and let's put it on film, and we'll send it that way. That was the first and only time, and that was his junior year in high school. So that was the first and only time he had ever done that until the Ithaca audition.
Gotcha.
But I filmed him. It's this tiny little thing on my camera, and you can see how emotional he is in that video. And I think that's a selling point.
How many places did he audition for?
He only auditioned for, if you count Ithaca, 13.
Aaron, how many did?
I feel like it was what we were encouraged to do is starting, pick a list of like 40 schools that sound cool, narrow it down to 30, narrow it down to 20 to apply. I think he was accepted at 17. Schools, he was accepted all of them academically.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
academically. Okay.
11 offered him an audition. So
I was
he
going to say,
auditioned at
dang, dude,
11.
he got into 70s.
y'all-
Oh, no,
y'all
And
don't-
then he
accepted.
got into
Even wanted-
5.
Y'all don't even want to know how many.
Yeah, no, I do. You're next. So it was how many
Yeah,
for Johnny?
Jonathan auditioned at 12
12.
and then got in at 11.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay, but 12.
Academically or
No,
Wow, that's
artistically.
amazing. That's great.
Had to fight a little bit to get into one academically, even though he was artistically accepted, because he was their number one choice. And I said, nope, we're not doing number one choice. I need you to be in competition constantly.
Yeah.
That's
I do
actually a
not
really
want
good way
to
to
hear.
see it.
So I'm going to cut you off here, but 12 for him.
Yep.
How many for Mitchell?
11
No. How many did he
auditions
apply
at-
for?
Applied for 17.
Okay, and then how many for Gabriel?
28.
28. So we have jumped up dramatically.
Right.
Now we
It
might be
is
freaks
so,
though, but
it is so competitive now. And then the funny thing is that I had a
or at
conversation.
least that's the feeling we get.
I
is
had
that
a no.
it's like, oh.
I had a sidebar conversation with Jenny like not that long ago, and Jenny, I remember you told me you're like, we didn't really apply to any like extreme reach schools. The funny
What's
thing
that?
is now schools are kind of categorized really quickly into like extreme reach, a fit school, and a safety school. Extreme reach is like less than 3% of kids get in. Reach school is less than 6 or 7% of kids get in. Fit school would be about 15% of kids who audition, will get in. And then safety is like, it could be 30%. But the funny thing is that some of the schools that Jenny mentioned that they auditioned for that were not considered reach schools are now considered reach schools.
Really?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Like,
Jonathan auditioned they were reach schools. I just didn't.
he deserves it.
But the point is though is that there are schools now that in just a 6-year span of time that have gained a lot of recognition over those years that have become like, oh, you should go to Wright State. Wright State, and back 20 years ago, Wright State was like this hidden gem that nobody knew about,
Right.
because it's Wright State in Ohio. What's that?
I think
And
it's getting
now
more and more competitive, and
everybody
colleges
knows, yeah.
are trying so hard to recruit kids because, I mean, especially with COVID, attendance is down, and they know musical theater parents will pay a lot of money to send their kids to school, and so they're like, if we build this program up and we build a new theater and we recruit this guy from that school, and then he comes here and builds our program up, we can build up our musical theater program, and it's a smart avenue.
Well,
of
funny
income
thing
for
is,
colleges.
we learned from some of the research that we've been doing that UNCG has been known for their acting.
University of North Carolina, Greensboro. Everybody.
They've been known for their acting program for years.
Yeah, they're one of the
Well,
top acting programs
They
in the country.
they started a musical theater program not that long ago, and they just had their first graduating class from musical theater.
Incorrect. They're going to have it this
Sorry,
year.
excuse me. Yeah, you're right.
It's that new.
But it's like, some of these schools are starting to adopt and new programs and becoming more and more competitive in the market of,
At Mitchell School, they
programs.
just started a theater arts management. So if you want to like run a production company or you want to be behind the scenes and be an artistic director,
What school's that?
Ryder
Cool.
in New Jersey. Mhm.
Cool.
I think Gabe
And
and
they have a
Johnny should
TV
start
and
their own
film
dance
major
studio.
too.
Yeah, someday when they're older and done with their careers, dance.
Right.
Two guys starting their own dance studio. They would kill it with that.
Yeah,
man.
they would.
Yeah.
Two bros starting a dance studio.
Yeah, but if you think about, like when I was talking about Wright State,
Yeah.
they had he told me there were closer to 600 kids that auditioned, and they took 12. I mean, the numbers are pretty low.
But that's like 600 people. It's now like 5,000 people auditioning for that program. It's ridiculous. All these schools everybody that is applying for Michigan and Penn State, and they're also applying for Wright State. They're all applying for the same
and that
ones now.
wasn't the way it was then when Jonathan was there, because they only did live auditions.
Right. So you'd have
You
to
had to
come to the
come
school.
to
Right.
Wright
Now,
State.
there are a couple, though, that Gabe is doing that I just actually had to book another flight because some of these places are only doing live auditions. And it's like, if you want that audition, so we're trying to schedule it so that he can do not just that one, but maybe another one or like 2 or 3 at the same time. So we're not wasting, I don't want to say wasting, but
It's
it
a
is like you're
long
spending
trip
a
to
lot
go
of
to
money.
Texas for one school.
Exactly.
It is wasting. It can be absolutely wasting.
That's
You
a
go
lot of
there
time.
and
And
it's
we
just-
don't know. I mean, he's applied. Okay, so he applied. He
But
applied
what
to
if that's the
28.
one school who wants
Exactly.
Right.
He applied to 28. He has not gotten academically rejected to any of the schools, which very proud of him for. But right away, pre-screen wise, I would say 6 of them said no, but like 6 out of 28, I'm like, okay, that's not bad. And some of them are pretty reachable schools.
Do they tell you you're academically rejected? Does that happen?
Well,
Do
yeah,
they
just
tell
like
you?
if you
Oh,
apply
yeah,
to
they'll tell
Bowling
you.
Green, they'll say like you've not been accepted to our college.
You know, it was really competitive year academically. They'll
Oh,
give
is that
you
what
the
they do?
whole, oh yeah,
They don't-
they'll send you the
Why
letter.
they sugarcoat it? Why don't they just say
We regret to inform you.
your ACT score was too low? Just say that so I know what the reason is. Just
Right.
be
Yeah,
blunt,
but now
man.
with COVID, you don't have to give them your ACT score.
but
Right.
not. But we know that's not true. Some of the
some
ones do.
Some.
Michigan didn't let you slide. They want to see that ACT.
Right.
Some NYU
and
they
there's
want to
some-
see your ACT.
There actually that I would say that was one. Michigan did say no to him academically, so it's like they don't even bother looking at your pre-screen because they said
Sure.
no academically, which is it's whatever, it's fine.
Because you need a 30 to get into the school, basically, on your ACT.
Yeah. So, but I mean, he got passed on pre-screens though for 22 other schools. And, I told him too, I said, even if that, I was just very proud of him that he got that far for some of them. And I do feel like to a certain extent, some of them we kind of just applied to just to see if he could do it.
Right.
So
Well, okay, let's talk about dance. So we all had our kids take. Aaron, you had your son take some dance. When did he start taking dance? Though?
Yeah, same thing. You
but
start
he's
realizing.
not as big a dancer though.
No, but I mean, he took to it because he had done gymnastics for years.
okay.
He had tons of body awareness and
Okay.
moved really easily. So yeah, he was telling me his freshman year, this kid who started at 13 and probably didn't start dancing until he was 16 said, Mom, listen what happened in class today. I was dancing. The teacher said, everyone stop. Look at him. But what she said was, do you see how musically he's moving his body? Because he was doing the drama of the movement instead of just doing the mechanics.
There's the theater
And I was like,
kicking in.
see, that's where your musicality comes into moving your body. But he did the same thing. Started like dancing at 16 at Toledo Ballet. I got him in private lessons with Michael and Lisa so that he could do tap and he could do modern. He could do jazz and he could learn ballet.
Okay, but for the audition process, how much do you think you overshot on the dancing? Because that's kind of how we feel.
I don't think you can.
We just kind of feel like
I think that's the wild card.
what?
A lot, especially for boys. For Jonathan, I think that's what got him in to 11 out of 12 schools.
But you were in person, and you got to have longer periods of times. As a guy who's been in the living room while my son has been in the next room doing his thing, he's got 6 minutes. And you know what they don't ask him to do? Dance.
Really?
So I'm
now that's
curious.
not necessarily true because he just had an audition. Luckily, it was in state and we could drive to it. And
Right, but that's in
felt,
person.
He felt really good because
Weren't
they
his-
had a dance audition first, and the girls were in awe that there was a guy that could dance.
Didn't they? He dances on all of his pre-screens though, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So
well, then
that-
they know if they can dance.
That's what I'm wondering, though, because we're still kind of like not really sure how this works. Like, how about the essays? Did those essays, do you think, made a difference?
Meh.
That's what we think. That's exactly
Do you know?
what we
Okay,
think.
can we talk about
We
how
wrote about
many essays
45.
with the pre-screens too? They have to write all the. I mean, I think that he has probably written between his regular Common App essay and just mini essays, probably close to 20 essays.
Well,
if
when you
not
start
more.
the process of auditioning, like we secured a coach in February of his senior year. He was finishing up like his senior musical, like we were doing all that. Of course, it was
Wait. February of his senior year? Wait, you mean junior year?
junior year.
Yeah.
Yes, junior
I was going
year.
to say, that's
Yeah.
too late. February
Yeah.
senior, you've already had your
junior year.
auditions.
So that starting in summer, in June and July and August, he was filling out applications and writing all these essays, and then starting to and recording stuff, starting to send things in, and working on auditions September, October, November, and then you're getting in the thick of it. And then, as you guys know, man, there's just this dark time where you sit and you wait and you think
That would
everyone,
be while I'm
Yeah.
drinking
I know.
2
Everybody
martinis
is like
right
announcing
now.
on Facebook where their kids are going to school, and I remember thinking, well, must be nice. We have no idea
Oh, yeah,
where our
we have
kids
no
will
idea.
be.
Thank you.
No idea.
I am so glad you two are here because people are like, oh, my son got into his top choice. And over here, we're like going,
Yeah, we have no clue where he's
didn't get-
going.
we didn't
I'm
get the
crying in a
Right.
corner and rocking.
right. We didn't get the majority of our stuff until March.
Gotcha.
So-
Oh, that makes me feel like I'm not crazy. And all of the Buckeyes I've been eating have been worth it. Not even kidding. I have been so. I'm like, I'm not even kidding. I can't sleep. I'm
Yeah.
actually starting to have nightmares that
Anxiety,
he
yeah.
doesn't get anywhere.
Oh, he'll
the
get
one
in.
night I had a nightmare that he didn't get into college, so he had to become a hitman. I mean, I'm not even kidding. That was the dream I had last night. So I was like, well, I guess I'm up at 5:30 because I'm not going back to sleep to that. It's crazy.
So worthless stuff. That's what I was trying to get at too. Like I felt like, there's all this pressure. Like we got to write these essays, but then when it comes down to it, do you think do they even care? I mean, do they read these? I mean, what is it? Do you think that they're determining?
determining.
What is it that they're really deciding on when it comes to getting these kids in these programs? 6 minutes he's out there doing a couple songs and a monologue. He was done. I'm
Well,
like, that's what you're going to decide?
They told Jonathan
Yikes.
at Point Park at the Unifieds, he got he walked in. It was a walk-in.
Oh,
And
where? What was
at
it?
Point Park in Chicago.
You could
can't
walk
walk
in.
into Point
You
Park
can't
now.
walk into Point Park
He
now.
went to them 20 times during that 4 days we were there.
Wow.
Finally, the last day, well, actually, the day before the last day, the lady said, "We have 1 minute. That we
Oh,
give you
geez.
1 minute. That means you sing part of a song and you get to do part
Oh my
of your
gosh, that's
monologue.
Did
how
he sing
good he
that?
is that they wanted him
They said-
after 1 minute.
They said part of your song. Is that what he
No,
sang? Oh.
Well, he sang his 2 audition songs. One of them was from Pippin.
Okay. Yeah.
And
But so he had to fight for just an audition with them too.
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
wait,
he-
really quickly, Jenny, let me ask you, what do you think when you go into the audition room, in your opinion, since you've already been through it, what do you think is the most important thing?
I think controlling your nerves and being able to shine like your personality. They need to see.
I'm so
your
glad you didn't
personality.
say just be yourself. Because I'm like getting
Oh.
tired of the just be yourself thing.
No. I think they need to see that you are passionate about this, and not, I don't know. I just think that our kids are in this room. I know these kids and they're passionate. And
Oh, very. But my son's also a pleaser when it comes to just like being a good kid and not, speaking out of turn or anything.
love
Yeah,
that.
he's actually the
But-
funny thing about Gabe is he's a very go with the flow kind of dude.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really difficult. I do feel like when they first meet him, for them to necessarily see, like, he's not the kind of kid that's going to like just be fake just because
Be a
he
butt
feels
kisser.
like they need to see that.
and Jonathan's not that way either. And I think Mitch, our kids are probably the most similar of any kids that I've seen
Probably.
in
That's
this
probably a good point.
area.
I feel like your son and my son are like little
Brothers.
twinsies.
They could be brothers.
They look exactly alike.
But Gabe is just like, hey, whatever. He's really mellow about it. So when they're like, hey, you have any questions? He's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, ask something, do something. So you step forward, say the program's great.
yeah,
do
we're the
something.
parents who are like, make something up, and he goes, but
Yeah.
I don't want to just make something up. And
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like-
So do you guys think that's bad of him?
No.
No. I mean, I definitely, with a sales background, was coaching Mitchell to do the whole, you walk in, you look him straight in the eyes, you start smiling, and you're
Yeah.
like, so good to be here. I'm really excited. Like,
Right.
Oh,
you
yeah.
bring your best self to the table with a lot of energy.
Right. That's what we say.
Yeah.
Drink some caffeine before you go in.
I'm
Something,
literally
please.
texting him right now on getting me a bean burrito from Taco Bell. He's like, I'm getting food. Is that okay? I'm like, give me a burrito. Sorry, I'm going to get a lot more talkative because is
The margs
anybody
are
else
kicking in?
hot in here? Because these martinis, like my whole face feels like it's on fire right now. But it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, I just want to know. Like, I feel like all those essays we wrote, I'm like, really? Because I felt like he had to write a different kind of essay for every one of the 28
Yep.
schools he was with.
I
And
feel
I
like
didn't
those
read
would be
any.
Why?
tiebreakers. Like if you had 3 guys that you were like,
That's what I
they're
said,
all
Erin.
good, just read their stuff, and then they'd be like, well, and then it depends what the school really values. Some schools really value academics, and it's really important. Some schools don't. One thing I wanted to say that I thought was really helpful for us was when we were working with Tim, his coach. He was guiding us on things, and I really I just did not see the point or how he was doing it, and then it made so much sense. But when we started to apply, he was like, so let's talk about what kind of school Mitchell wants to go to. And I said, he doesn't know what kind of college he wants to go to. He
Thank
doesn't
you.
know what college is. And I thought, that is so dumb. And he was like, Mitchell, do you care? What do you think about every Friday, all of you get dressed up in coats and you go out to a football game? And he's like, no. And he's like, you don't need to go to a Big Ten school. And I was like, okay. And then he was like, imagine being able to take a train into New York City or getting to live in Texas, or be in downtown Chicago. Like, think of areas and he was like, I want to be by New York City. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, man, we're narrowing this in. And then he's like, do you think you would like to take some classes like science and history and math so you can learn all sorts of things? Or do you only want to be singing, dancing, and acting like all of them? I only want to be singing, dancing,
Yeah,
and acting.
exactly.
And it's
Gabe's like, I don't
we're not
ever wanna
applying
take a
for
science
any
class
BA
again.
programs.
Right.
How important is it to you to keep studying piano? Can you do it on the side? Is it a hobby you enjoy? Or do you want to find a program that has a really strong conservatory where you'll be writing music? And he was like, that sounds really interesting to me.
Mitchell is such a good pianist.
Yeah, he is just
what
a great musician.
What?
Pianoist.
Okay, so
Perv.
we just said a couple things here. So you got a BA, a BFA, and a conservatory. So
Mm-hmm.
BA, a difference between a BA and a BFA. Anybody?
Bachelor of the Arts is what maybe some of us in here have. Like, it's just a more balanced academic, typical college program. But there's Bachelor of Science where you're studying a lot of math and science, like.
No, we're not talking about BS.
Right,
No,
we're
and
but
talking
then
about
there's,
BA.
then there's a BA,
programs,
right?
you're
I'm saying
gonna
like
take more
those are the
regular
two
ed
different
classes.
that you're going to have as an undergrad. So Bachelor of the Arts, you are going to take, it's an arts-based education. You're going to learn philosophy and sociology and art and math and all the stuff.
Okay,
History.
but BFA is.
But a BFA is a performance degree, so you're getting a degree
Training.
in performing.
and not taking those
Not
philosophy
nearly
and
as much,
science.
although I was surprised because my impression was that it would be maybe 80% performance classes, and it's more like 65. Like there's still academic classes.
But
They
Johnny
have,
had
but they have stuff like philosophy and things that make them a more well-rounded human.
but Johnny took a BFA.
Jonathan took one class a semester.
There you
that
go.
was at Wright State. That's and that's what he wanted.
I
And
feel like that's
and those
more
are the only
normal.
schools he applied for.
Were
he
the
only
BFAs.
wanted one
Yeah.
ish class that he had to take per
but
semester.
Ryder Mitchell's is a BFA.
They really, like you're saying, they have a really specific regimen where they want them taking like a specific art history class, where they want them taking things that they think will apply, like psychology.
But is it a BA or is it a BFA?
It's a BFA. It's a performance.
So even the BFAs are different. So Ryder, they're making them take harder classes.
They still take classes, yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
at Wright State, they're like, dude, you take one class, and the rest of them he's taking
Right, he
just
took
performance
like music
based.
theory and stuff like that would help him with voice, and then he took dance, and he got to take dance major level classes there because they have a dance program. So he took like contemporary and stuff like that.
Okay,
That's
so
not
if you were a dance major,
Right.
he was taking those classes too.
right, so he got to, because they do a level class there where if you already are better than everything they offer for the MT program, then you can take the dance major level classes, and that's what he did.
I was just going to say that's another thing is you can test out of classes. Mitchell tested out of the music theory stuff, so now he's got openings to take other things.
Right.
Oh.
Because he already.
What would he take? More dance, more vocals, more what?
It's his freshman year, and they said, okay, here's the classes you take. And I think, at least in most BFA programs, unlike just an academic program that most college kids go to, where you take 5 3-credit hour classes, so you're taking 15 credit hours a semester. Musical theater kids, I think, take like 17, 18, because they have voice lessons and they have dance clinics and they have like Monday night arenas where they all perform for each other, and they get 1 credit hour for all getting
But he
up
didn't rush out with those open classes and take chemistry.
Well, so he had to take a writing class because I think
Oh,
like a
that's
lot of
nothing wrong
freshmen
with
take
that.
that.
That's good.
But they were like, "Oh, well, you tested out of musical theater," and he was like, "Perfect." And I was like, "What are you gonna take instead?" And he was like, "Nothing."
I'm taking free
You
space.
did like an evil bill, like whoa.
He took study hall.
What he decided to, he worked out a lot this semester, so that was like
Oh,
his
nice.
focus.
That's not a bad thing. Strength
No.
is a big
Yeah.
deal.
I think
well,
so.
I send some pics. I want to see his buff. You
Yeah,
know, see
I've
him
got
all-
pictures.
see him all
He's
swole.
He's looking all
Yeah, I wanna see him
like
swole.
Hadestown dancers.
That was such a good show.
You mean
Oh
the
my
town,
God.
the
Okay,
show I didn't get to
gotta
go
say-
to because my dog broke his leg. Why did you had to bring that up?
Right.
Nice,
have
nice.
to say, we went to New York.
Hey, are you
end of
derailing the
October.
podcast
Nope,
and
I
talking
do.
about
I gotta say, first time that this is a kid who wants to like be in musical theater. Very first time he ever saw a show on Broadway was this
Really?
year.
Well, it turns out we're not made of money.
Yeah,
So-
as
Us
much
either,
as
so.
much as we'd
You
love
know.
to be able to let him see everything, we just can't. So he and I would look over every once in a while in that theater, and you, even with the mask on, you could just see
Yeah.
his eyes lit.
Let's
up,
talk
and
about
he
the
was
money.
like,
Let's talk about the money in
That's so
musical
fun.
theater and applying and that kind of stuff.
Ka-ching!
Is this a rich person's career to go into college, though? Is it going to cost like...
It has always been that way,
Yeah.
I
Costs
think, in
a
the
lot,
past.
man.
However, there are affordable programs, and you just need to find them. And there are also a lot of scholarships. Now,
Oh yeah, scholarships.
Jonathan
for
got
sure.
a ton of money from Point Park, but it was still going to be $18,000 now.
Yep.
Compared to 55, it
Okay.
was still going to cost us 18 after
So,
all the
because that
loans.
is what we've run into a lot. It's like, well, you want your kid to go to the best school, but it turns out the best schools are $80,000 a year.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
and you haven't gotten a place to stay yet.
And
Right.
the
That's
funny
just
thing
the
is, though,
tuition.
is that, and we did find out that, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, is they did say that the first round of acceptance letters that you get from the colleges are, okay, these are the quote academic scholarships that we're willing to give you, which he's always had good grades. Thank baby Jesus. But. So he got some nice academic scholarships. So we're kind of fingers crossed hoping that on top of that, there's also like performance-based scholarships. Do they get additional monies for that?
More
Just
of the
depends.
private schools are going to offer more money for that, but the public schools
Gotcha.
are way more affordable. So that $18,000 that Jonathan would have spent outside of what they had, covered with loans and grants and scholarship money that he got, we could go to Wright State for that money for the whole year.
Gotcha.
And plus he got, they only do a small stipend there, but it's a state school, so it's pretty affordable.
In-state school.
I'm gonna
What
melt.
about the
I'm
out-of-state
melting in the couch
schools?
about those. Oh
Well,
my
and that's why I was trying to tell you
Right.
earlier, we did all of our Ohio schools that he wanted to go to in person.
Yeah,
And
but if you
that's not an
want to
option,
go
but-
to Michigan, which is the most painful thing for the people living here in Toledo, the University of Michigan, which
5
is
miles
is
from the
five-
border.
yeah, it's right here. It's closer to
Right.
go to Ann Arbor than it is to go to Columbus.
Yep.
That's out of state.
Right.
So if you are a Michigan resident, you get to pay $8,000 a year, whether it's some dumb cheap number like that to go
I
to
think
Michigan.
it's like 22 to 23,000
Yeah.
in state and like in the 50s out of state.
Right.
Is it that much in state even?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow,
It's,
it's even
but
expensive
that's
for
what,
in-state.
But that's Ohio's. Well, no, wait. Ohio State's only like 11 and a half
Yeah.
for tuition wise.
That's I'm talking about that. Yeah. So we're talking about like these. So even some of these better schools that you hope to go to, if it's a state school, you're not going to get that bonus of it's a state school, right?
Well,
So, like, you wanna go to
we
North
did
Carolina, it's gonna
we
be,
got
ooh.
we got the Pell Grant because of our where we fall financially, and
Thank God
that
we're
Pell
poor.
Grant paid for all of his schooling.
Oh.
All we had to pay for were the extras and living on campus. And
We're going to talk
That's
after
amazing.
this podcast about how to get these Pell Grants.
Actually, Emma, your daughter, got like a bunch of grants that literally covered her entire tuition, and then our child, she's just an organized person, became an RA and covered all the rest of it. So we pay
That's
like
amazing.
$200
Okay, so there's
a
a
year.
way. So we're
I
saying
think
there's
that you're
a
bringing up a
ways.
great
There are
point though about
ways.
money, because there are a lot of kids who get into a number of programs. Then you get the offers, you find out what they're going to give you in scholarship, you calculate your cost, you write back and you say, this is not possible for my family. Is there anything you can do? They dig a little deeper,
Yep.
they offer you something, and then there's plenty of kids who look at the 5 they've been accepted to and they're like, can't afford it, can't afford it, can't afford it. My top 3 schools have offered me positions I can't go.
Right.
And then you have to
Yikes.
pick between the bottom 2 of the 5 that offered you. We had we had the 5. We got rid of Chicago. We got rid of one in New
That's
York.
a school, Chicago? It's called Chicago?
Well, no, it was Roosevelt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I'm pretty sure we're not naming
Yeah,
names.
right,
Yeah, we
right,
did.
you know.
We dropped
Jonathan got
Point
in at
Park, a
Roosevelt
bunch
as
of
a
already.
dancer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did Mitchell get in as a
so where at what school? Or you mean
at
anywhere?
Roosevelt? They have
Yeah.
different things they do there. At
Yeah.
this-
Oh,
I
this-
see,
this
right.
school.
Oh, I was just
You
curious.
go in as basically a dance major, but you also take voice and you also
They started
take
a
acting.
musical theater program, so they do
Well,
have
I'm-
a musical.
you know
I've,
what?
there's
I'm
several
not-
kids we know have gotten accepted.
Their dorms,
pre-screen
their
passes
dorms are the
anyways.
best dorms of I think any place in the country. You're in a high rise in downtown
Well, and
Chicago.
no
and they're
offense.
huge.
No offense to Roosevelt here, but this isn't a Roosevelt podcast. I want people to know what the truth is when,
Well,
when
and
they're
this is-
auditioning.
and the
if
thing, too,
Roosevelt
is-
is expensive and it's hard to get into, and it's they're not going to give a
Kyle,
lot
they
of money.
are all a
Roosevelt
lot of them are
wasn't-
expensive.
Roosevelt was more affordable than the other schools that we went and looked
Okay,
at of the
okay.
5. So Mitchell got into Malloy College, which we passed on.
Oh, that's a great one, too.
Because it was like this little tiny, like this is at least our take on this, and I do think these kind of anecdotal stories help, because how are you supposed to know anything about? You can't know something about
Exactly.
every school.
Exactly.
So we decided not Malloy. People had told us, so it's this tiny little college, and again, this is my opinion and what I heard. We didn't even see it, but it's this little private college, and then these kids get on the train and spend an hour and 15 or 20 minutes to go into the city, and then they study Tuesdays and Thursdays at a building in the city, and then they go back. So, and then their next year they go 3 days a week. But I was like, you're going to spend hours on transportation. What if we just look for a school in New York if that's your objective? So we ended up
That's
not.
in Jersey, right?
That one was New York. Mitchell is
no, Malloy. Malloy's in Jersey, right?
No, I think it's in New
Oh,
York.
no,
The
it's
state in New York
dude.
State. It's
Oh.
not. It's not like in the
it's
city
not
though.
far from
Right.
Manhattan.
But far enough though that you're going to be on a train for hours every week. And I was
Yeah.
like, you could do homework, but I don't know. It seemed like a lot to me to spend that much. And it was you took a bus to get to the subway, and then you took a subway. It just was a lot of transportation, in my opinion.
And I'm glad you guys are mentioning this too, because I do feel like at the end of the day, when all the offers are on the table, you are going to have to make a pros and cons
Yep.
chart of
Yep.
everything and financials, because one of the schools in New York City gave Gabe a fat scholarship, but because the school is so expensive, it still doesn't
It's really
cover.
not that fat. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
mean,
right.
it's a huge scholarship in terms of
Sure.
compared to other ones, but the school is expensive. So it's like, you're
Right.
still going to have to pay for this and room and board. So it's like, you have to weigh everything. And let me tell you what, big, going back to what you said too about like filling out the essays and stuff. There is one school, and I'm not going to mention it, that the way that they asked the kids to fill out the essays and the stuff that they asked, it was like 1,000 words
Good grief.
musical theater essay. And I like, that is one of the ones that I would kill for him to go to, because I really feel like at the end of the day, they give a about my
Well, like,
son.
what were they? What was so good about it?
They asked all sorts of stuff in the essay. They're like, we want to know things that you think he thinks.
How am I doing over here pretending like I don't know?
That, yeah, I know, right? That you know exactly what
I
I'm
know,
talking about.
yeah.
But they wanted to know what he thought his strengths were artistically and what his weaknesses were artistically. And they're like, look, don't sugarcoat it. You don't have to feel like you have to not say what it really is. Then they wanted to know personally, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Then they wanted to know things like, what do you like to do? What are your favorite movies?
Is it
What
a
are your
Southern
favorite-
school?
It is Southern Middle. And I just
Southwest.
loved the questions they
Uh-huh.
asked, because I'm like, I feel like when you ask questions like that, you're genuinely trying to get to know this child and who they are as a person, not just a performer.
Okay, but where do people find out which schools they should go to, though? Anybody? Like, where? I mean, there's. Are
You're
they all just
asking
supposed to-
around and in these groups.
You have to research, man. You
Where?
Have to
How do
ask
you
around.
research stuff?
I thought the parents groups were helpful because I could say, hey, he just got an offer from Malloy. Are there any Malloy parents in here? And then they would friend you and message you. And I'd say, how much
Oh.
are you guys paying? What do you think about it? What's the worst part about it? What does your kid love? If
Mm.
they could have picked a different school, are you familiar with this program? Because these are the two options. Which would you pick if you had to do it over
So
again?
we should at least
no,
get involved
agreed.
after the.
I agree,
We should get back
Aaron.
into the group once schools are at least offering.
You
Well,
don't want you don't
Gabriel-
want to ask those questions to the general group because they'll
Right.
shoot you down. You just need to get one-on-one
Yeah.
with a parent that has
Okay,
experience.
see, they'll
That
shoot.
makes sense.
They'll shoot you down.
They will shoot
See?
you
Well,
down.
there's a lot
of
if you
people
say
whose
anything
kids didn't get-
negative, you're not allowed. They will take it out and they will.
That's true.
tell
And they
you-
don't want to cause
Yeah,
problems and have
they don't
professors
want
know
you to
who's
know
saying
the
what and-
truth.
Okay, that's
Or
the
there's
thing.
parents who are a little bitter because maybe their kids did not get accepted to that particular
Right.
place. And Gabriel, like, he's got one coming up too. He got a hold of one of the girls who locally got into this particular school. She actually turned down NYU over this school. And he's like, tell me about what you love about this school. I want to know, because it's like you're still in the process of like trying to figure out where you belong.
Yeah, he was actually friends with her on Instagram already. How convenient.
In
So-
the end, we came down to, we went out and saw, we had two Connecticut and one New Jersey. And we drove out and saw the New Jersey, went to
New Jersey was Ryder.
Yep.
Well,
Uh-huh.
and where were the Connecticut
We
ones?
went out to University of Hartford, Connecticut. And then there was one other one, and Western Connecticut.
oh.
And he did a meet and greet online with some of the kids. And then I know someone that I did theater with, 25 years ago. And she had costume shows at Western Connecticut. So we had conversations with her, and we just started getting a vibe and information that was making us be like, we think we're not picking that.
Gotcha. What meet and greet? How'd you get a meet and greet?
We called, we just said, are there any kids he could talk to who go to
To
campus
who? Did you
there?
just shout outside your window? What do you mean?
No, I feel like we after they offered him something, you start having email conversations with the head of the department.
Uh-huh.
Either
I love they make themselves available for that, though. That
and
makes
some
me
more than
happy,
others,
too.
right?
It really
and
does.
that feels like something. And so we're just saying.
So is that how the meet and greets got happening?
And because of course this is COVID, you couldn't go to classes, you couldn't watch anything. But so Ryder had said, if you come, we'll give you a tour. It was interesting because Robin, who's the head of the dance department, and at Ryder, they don't have a head of the musical theater department. They have a head of the voice musical theater, a head of the dance musical theater, and a head of the acting musical theater. So it's 3 people run the program.
Well, that's good though.
And so, I thought so. And Robin had danced with Lisa from the Toledo Ballet and Michael when they were all in Beauty and the Beast on Broadway. So she was like, Robin is great. And we were like, we got a great vibe from the audition. He was gushing over Mitchell and saying how great we'd love to work with you and you've got so much talent.
so you got a good vibe from them, and then then somebody else confirmed this good vibe.
that they'd work
Nice.
with him, and then he made him. And this is that whole like we care about your kids. He was
Thank
like,
you.
if you
I'm
come out,
looking for
so the
that.
head of the department
Seriously.
probably spent 45 minutes walking us around the entire campus.
The
Answering
head of
any-
the department.
the dance department, yeah. And so he really like he was.
They
just,
do that for all the blonde girls too.
Okay. And can we point out that when it was time for Gabe, because it was virtual, to virtually audition and submit all his stuff for Right State, we are watching the dance video where they teach you the dance combo you have to submit, and I'm looking so close at this dance video. I
This
go,
person with
that
a mask
looks
on?"
like Jonathan.
Yeah, it
and
was
Gabe looks at it. He goes,
Oh my
It was he's so
He
Jonathan.
had,
Isn't that funny?
he had a mask on, so it made it a little harder to know.
And I was like, no, that's Jonathan.
no.
He looks exactly like you.
I
He
got a
dances
video
like
for
you.
funny. Oh my god!
And then, of course, we messaged Jonathan, and Jonathan's like, oh, don't judge me. That was when I was a sophomore, and I wasn't that good. And I'm like, that dude looks like
know,
he should be in the freaking
shut up.
Nutcracker on Broadway.
up.
I'm like, stop it.
Yeah.
I was like, his form is perfect. And Gabe goes,
That was-
that's
Of
totally
course.
Jonathan.
Of
That's
course.
funny. It was funny, but the mask was
I
on.
miss
But I'm
him.
like,
Yeah.
that looks just
and
like
you
him.
got to
It's gotta
remember
be.
too, he's really bulked up since
Yeah.
he lived
He
here.
really has. He has he looks so much older.
Yeah.
And then funny
Oh, yeah,
thing
he's
is
a
too,
grown
Gabe, when
man
he
now.
had his audition here in Ohio this last couple weeks, they at the end of his interview process, they're like, we see your picture. Can you just take your mask off so we can just see you in person? He takes his mask off and they go, oh, you really do have a baby face, don't you? And he's like, yeah, I do. Sorry.
They just do that though. They can just say that. They can
Yeah.
just be like,
Well,
"Oh,
honestly,
you're kind of
Gabe
a
is
fatty."
You
not
know
a-
what?
it doesn't
That's a
affect
good
Gabe,
selling
though.
point because when Jonathan went to Wright State his freshman year, they did Fiddler, and Drew Longmore was an understudy for one of the little girls, and they had two other kids that looked like little girls, and they
Okay.
could play those parts
But it
on
cracks me-
Broadway as a 20-year-old.
Okay.
Honey,
That's
they
good.
don't see that stuff as a detriment. They
No.
see that as you look different. You're a different person.
Right.
Gabriel doesn't take offense to that. He
No.
is used to the fact that he is going to look like that until he's like 40. So,
Well,
I
and-
mean,
Yeah.
One of the things that's funny about being cast here in Toledo was a lot of times a couple of different directors that you all know have told me if he just looked older, he could have the lead, but he looks like such a boy. And
Yeah, he had
all
a
the
baby
rest of the
face for a
people
while, yeah.
around him don't look like little boys, and he does.
and Gabriel
also
has
was-
always looked like a little boy.
But he
You
also
can't get away
was
from it.
younger in a lot of the shows he was doing.
And he
though,
was
too.
smaller, and he doesn't have the.
Yeah.
Now he's got.
He's doing
all the
adult
muscles
shows, and he's a 16-year-old. I wonder why he looks like
Yeah,
a
right.
16-year-old.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It does give me hope for Gabriel, though, that since looking at how young Johnny looked when he graduated to 5 years older, it's like he looks like a grown man. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
this is great. Are
Oh
you
yeah,
kidding
and he's
me?
filled out too. He's got the muscles going on. So yeah. So
But hey, and it worked out, especially with him being in Curious Incident. He plays Christopher Boone, who's a 15-year-old. I'm like,
Yeah.
perfect.
Right. Well, and that's what I was trying to tell you when we saw that show. The whole time I watched that kid, I was like, "Oh my God, Gabe could so do this part."
oh, what in New York? You mean? Or
Well, we saw it at Wright State.
Oh,
The
okay.
kid that played it.
Gotcha.
Oh, they did it
And
at
they
you're
did it at
right.
Wright
You
State.
did say that. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, and it was really cool.
I
Why are you
cannot
jealous-
wait to
Why
see
are you
that
jealous for?
I want to see.
You wanna be in the show?
I
Oh.
wanted to see that. I really wish it would have been. There's certain shows that I wish were still on Broadway. I just want to be able to see certain.
there are
things.
certain
Well,
shows that I wish even I knew existed before they left Broadway. There's
Yeah,
so many
I
of
agree.
those that I didn't know. Like this one, I didn't know Curious was a thing.
Oh my gosh,
So-
I saw that on Broadway, and
You're gonna come see it?
You did. I'm so jealous.
Good.
No,
It
no-
I
was
saw the video of
No
it.
pressure, Aaron,
stunning.
but
When
you're
is
coming
it?
to see the
When-
show.
I love that show.
When is it?
Yeah.
Can I slap you right now?
Dude,
I
work
post every
constantly.
day.
I
I'm
don't-
busy.
Every
It's
day
The
I
last
post.
weekend in January.
Somebody who.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, with what you do for a career as a
Where-
therapist, I think you should come. See.
Yeah, where is it at? Where are they performing?
The Rep.
it's a
Toledo
Rep.
Rep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Toledo
it's
Repertoire
essentially-
Great
Theater.
show.
All right, we've gone way off track here. We're just rambling here.
That's what happens when you make these martinis
Yeah,
ridiculously
I know,
strong,
I know.
bro.
I'm gonna tell you the one last thing I think is important about
One
our
last
journey
thing? Okay.
last year. I mean, there's other things if you ask, but
I want them all.
something that I would put out there is, in the end, we went and toured 2 schools,
Mm-hmm.
and he fell in love with the first one, which is Ryder. We went out, I said, do we even want to go to another one? Like, if you're this sure, should we even go? And then I was like, you got to decide. We're only a few hours, right? Like, home is like whatever, 20 hours. We're 4 hours away, whatever it was. So we went to Western Connecticut. No, I'm sorry, Hartford, University of Hartford, Connecticut. And he fell even more in love. And that's where he decided he wanted to go. And both schools were $60 a year. And University of Hartford, Connecticut gave him a $5,000 scholarship for like a 32 ACT, like nothing. And Ryder,
That was his ACT.
I know.
Nice.
I tried not to
our little
react.
Gina. And
I'll
then-
react for you. Holy
and
crap.
then-
If this was a video podcast, you would have seen my face. You're like, whatever.
Right? Well, and then I think, like you're saying, if he went to an Ohio State school and went to a regular BA program, like they would have eaten that up. But so, and then we went to Ryder, and it was like 59, and they offered him 20 a year. And I had to take my kid and say, so here's what we're looking at. Do we want to spend, 120,000 or 220,000?
Oh,
Like-
sweet baby Jesus.
Like what, and like, what does that look like?
And they have no idea.
Well, of course not.
Right.
And then I said, so if we cover what Ryder costs, do you want to cover the additional, what was it, 80,000 of the other school? And his coach said, absolutely do it. And we talked to people on Broadway and they said, do it. It's worth it. And I was like, I can't. We can't, Mitchell, I can't in good conscience.
Wait, your coach said go to the expensive one? Mm-hmm.
He said it was that good. He's like, but I said, Mitchell,
Let me tell you what, Gabriel, when he auditioned for Heart. He loved that lady. He was in there
Tracy.
for 45 minutes. He finally had to leave because the girl who was after him had a plane to catch in an hour and a half. And he's like, this poor girl has a plane to catch. He loved.
Yeah,
Was
she's
she
in
like,
there.
it doesn't matter. She's a blonde. We're good.
Oh,
We're not
stop.
gonna-
No, he let.
I know, I'm totally killing the poor little blondes who
I'll
are
be
listening.
curious to hear what happens though, because they apparently finally got some money and they're now offering people money because they wouldn't give. They wouldn't budge. And
He
But they-
hasn't
but
gotten
they
a
wanted
financial
you-
aid offer from them yet. He's gotten an acceptance for academically, but not a financial aid offer.
Okay, but
yet.
they wanted you to spend that money, though, huh?
Oh,
It was, because it was that much of a difference, they thought?
Here's the thing. In talking to all the parents and these groups, then you start going, my kid got an offer here and here. Anyone else? And then I would meet a mom who'd say, my kid's also choosing between 2 or 3 of the same schools as your kid. And I kept saying, like, you just know if your kid says no, the next kid moves up and the parents go, that's your best offer? We'll find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
That's
See,
a lot of
Jonathan
money.
got offered at a school in New York City. They gave him 5,000. It was like 70 a year.
Okay, you're gonna have to tell me later.
Yeah, I'll
wink,
tell you later.
wink, which
So
one that one was.
I call them. I have a
I think I
financial
know
aid
which
officer
one it is.
that was assigned
There's only
to
one
me.
that costs that amount, so we
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what it is. It's
and-
called, it starts with an N and ends with a U.
Yeah, right.
No, that's not true. That's not necessarily
That much money?
true.
So anyway, they ended up saying, "You can't afford to go here."
Oh,
They
well,
said that to you? Oh, girl.
After like 3
Wow.
phone calls, the guy was like, basically, "Stop bothering me. You can't afford it."
Wow.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess that's good for you to know because I'd be like, okay, I'm glad to know where you stand. We're
Yeah.
good. We're moving on.
Yeah,
Well,
and I
think-
because
rip
I
the
got
Band-Aid
lots
off.
of people to offer more money, and they just
Sure.
never even went up by $1,000. They
me a
didn't
break.
even give me a. They didn't throw me nothing.
But I think, the point is that your kid can fall in love with a school and get into that school, and then
Yeah.
you can decide as a family, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
And that is like, you got to be prepared for that.
That's
and
rough.
that balance of, yeah, okay, so this is the best school you've been offered, but what does that do for you or us to be out that much money? And is
A
it worth
year.
it?
Holly's nightmare is that he becomes a hitman, and my nightmare,
Right.
yeah, and my nightmare is that he gets accepted into one school and
Yeah.
it's 70,000,
Oh, yeah.
and we can't afford it.
I know.
So
and
there's
that would break
If that
my
happens to my
freaking
kid,
heart.
we would do it again the next year. I would have done it again. I almost wish we had.
What do you mean do it again?
I would have
said,
gone through
"Don't
the
worry."
whole audition process again.
You can do that?
Yeah.
Kids,
Oh.
kids go to
Absolutely. Oh my
Mitchell
God,
already has
absolutely.
done or halfway through a freshman year, and I've said to him, "Are you sure you like where you are? Do you want to write back to one of those schools and say, do you have any room to transfer?" And he was like, "I like it." I said, "Are you sure?"
Now, do you have to start over basically then, though, because you come in the next year?
Well, Diane Youngblood said too. She's like, when they were in the dark month,
Yeah,
they were like already talking about, okay, what places are we going to re-audition for
Yep,
next
yep.
year? Which
Yeah.
I'm like Googling pilot school.
yeah.
But-
and what,
but you
well,
can-
and
but
what could you do for that year? Doing tons of dance, tons of acting.
Oh my gosh,
like if
so
you,
much more training.
Once
you
you could do it again and do it so much better.
You know how hard it is for me to talk with these three ladies in here.
You wanted 3 chicks
I
on
know.
your podcast.
You know
bro.
what? This is the second most attractive podcasting thing I've had. Though.
Woo!
Wait
And
a
I've got
second,
this
most
dog
first.
on me who's really cute.
Second.
I got a bean burrito on its way. This
Yeah.
is great.
Well, I had Jordan Benavente on here though, so you guys, you're second.
I don't know. He's pretty.
That's
pretty
why I said
glamorous.
you're second. You're second. Second most
Jordan's
attractive.
pretty dreamy.
podcast.
Plus, you really zonked him with the martini.
Like I just did my wife apparently.
yeah, I'm like over here going, good night. Where's my NyQuil?
Well, but when you get into these schools, then you have another like 4 years then, right? I'm pretty sure. Isn't that the situation? These programs want you for
Not
4 years,
necessarily
right?
because at Wright State they did accept kids. There's a caveat with this though, because Wright State you can only audition, at least when Johnny did, you could only audition once.
Oh.
And if you blew that audition
Interesting.
and you
Wow.
you didn't get like waitlisted or accepted, you can't.
Where do
just-
you find that information out? Because I
Yeah.
swear that's not written in fine
No,
print
right.
anywhere.
And
Can you
nobody
just
told
change
us
his
that.
name?
I wonder if it's still like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, change his name.
But
He
they
could be
did
Jamie
take transfer
Crawford.
students, and they did transfer in kids from Georgia that they started as sophomores after their freshman year that they didn't like the school they were at.
Well,
So-
we know somebody that she did a couple musical theater schools her senior year, and I mean she got into places, but it was the same thing. It was too expensive, and so she took a year off, saved up money, did a little bit more work, and then got into a program which would have been like her technical sophomore year. So she took a year off for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I don't know if we're helping anybody at all in this,
No,
but we're
well,
sure talking.
No, this is the thing is though that sugarcoating this process for people is not going to be helpful in the
No,
slightest.
no.
I
That's what I
have
don't
2
want.
giant poster boards sitting behind me
Yeah.
with schools written, with pre-screens, what they require. Did he get yeses? Did he get passed? Do they require, like, this is not for the faint of heart.
do not sugarcoat the board either. The board consists of deadline dates on there when these things have to be in there.
What's
They're-
required?
If you're a parent out there who has a child who wants to get into this, you better start paying attention to when these deadlines are, what things are, because some schools require like, early.
We had a whole chart like that too.
Yeah.
It's color coded and which schools
Yep.
and how big they are, how big is the program, how many kids are in the program, where is it located, how many miles is it from New York City was one of ours.
Oh, you had some like ours. We don't even have that. Our stuff says like what kind of dance they require, what kind of monologues they require, what kind of audition songs they require, all that kind of
And
stuff.
then
Do
when
they
you got to
require
know on the
pre-screens?
pre-screen,
Yeah.
we
Yep.
put a different color, crossed it out. We're like, okay, let's not look at that one now.
That's one of those things about those mom groups though is
So
they
we're not
had lists
crazy
like
by
that.
doing this chart.
And I know, but they'll give, like, people will share their charts and they'll tell you what they looked at. Like, there's some good stuff in those groups. Some of those moms are super helpful and happy to share like their charts and what they found from different schools. I thought that was helpful.
But but I think that the thing is
I had
here
a hard
too
time
is
while
that
getting in that room though.
is that as a mom, I'm not used to this kind of rejection for him. And I know it's me and I know it's my problem. And I do feel like at this point in time,
Because everybody in this room's a little bit spoiled
Yeah.
with their kids because
Especially because they're boys.
Right, because
Yeah.
they're boys and things have come a little bit easier for them and they've gotten lots of roles, and now that it's tightening up, Holly's
But
having
he'll go
anxiety.
through an audition and they'll tell him no, and I ask him, I'm like, well, did you make sure you did this? Did you make sure you did that? And he's like, you can tell his irritation with me, and he's like, Mom, I've got this. I did everything, and I am having a hard time not taking it personally. I think he's okay.
Yeah.
I think because he's been in theater so long, he's used to being told no. He's used to having to just get better, suck it up, and work with it. And I'm over here like, why don't you love my kid?
Yeah,
So-
I heard him sing out there. I
It's-
thought he sounded perfect. Like, where was the bad note? He didn't hit a bad note.
And
But like Holly, we talked about this when we were messaging the other day. One of the top, I think what everyone would consider the top 2 programs in the country. One of them was like obsessed with my kid. Every time I'd listen outside the door, and then there was one time she finally said, I don't know what to tell you at this workshop to help you improve. You're basically perfect. She's like, you are amazing. You sing amazing. You're going to be an amazing leading man. Like, she just gushed and gushed. And I thought, oh my gosh, he is going to get into that school.
You were probably like, score, it's done.
I was,
yeah.
100%. When it was done, he paused his, muted his camera. Like, I'm going to take it, like, I'll take breaks. And I was like, Mitchell, like, this is it. You did it. Well, his coach says, the last 2 years, they've taken a kid who looks just like him.
And that
No
exact
offer.
same program took
No
a kid that
offer.
looked just like Gabe the year before. So
Yep.
it's like we did not even remotely put our eggs in that basket.
Yep. No offer.
No
No
offer.
offer.
God,
Well,
that sucks.
I mean, so bottom line, like everybody who's doing this has got to be prepared that it's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a load of no's. Advantages to possibly getting ahead is to not be a girl. Sadly, I mean,
Right.
but it doesn't mean you can't get in, obviously, right? But
Right.
don't be.
And let me ask you too, because
Somebody's
both of
gotta
your
get in,
boys
obviously, but-
have been through this process, and I don't know it because I haven't. But do you really think that their training that they're going to get from the programs that they were in and are in right now are any necessarily less good than some of the
The
golden,
Michigans of the world.
golden boy
Yeah.
programs?
Okay. No, I think they're getting excellent training. They've got people coming in from New York. And so even though it's not considered one of the top programs that's fancy, I think they're getting excellent training. I also know...
Because it's not a dumpy program either.
No,
I mean,
it's it's great. He's got one of the guys in Hadestown was his acting teacher this past
I'm so
year.
jealous.
But like this, and
Bringing
this
that
is,
up again. I can't believe how much Hadestown
know,
is
right?
coming
It's
up in this
such a
podcast.
good show. You
I
should have
would
been there.
know, yeah.
Sorry, my dog broke
This,
his
I'll
leg
say,
and
this
he
has
was
got to be
staying
like
home.
so many programs, maybe with rare exception. But these are 18-year-olds who've never been out on their own. And so just like so many college, any major, right? You've got all these goofy kids who are out partying for the first time, drinking for the first time in their life. And then you have kids who are like not touching the stuff, working out in the gym every day, practicing their music, spending an hour a day playing piano. Like, it's personality too, and it's discipline, and it's drive, and it's desire. So wherever there's going to be kids who go to some of the crappiest programs in the country, but they're amazingly talented, and they never quit putting their nose to the grindstone. And they'll be on Broadway before some goofball at U of M who drinks every weekend ends up doing anything fantastic.
Yep.
Now,
I
Jenny,
agree.
since Johnny's been out of the program now for a year or two, I'm curious, what is it
He
like?
just graduated in May. It's
Yeah,
not-
I was going
it's
to
not
say,
that
what is
long,
it
but-
like? I mean, coming close to a year, girl. What is it like for him being out?
Well, he knew he wanted to move to New York City, but he came home to spend the summer with us before that because I think he thinks it's going to be many, many years
Right.
before he gets back here.
So he didn't actually officially move out to New York till like September, probably, right? Something like that.
August.
August, okay.
August, yeah. So in August, he hit the road. He moved out there. He got a great job.
5
makes
months.
great money. Has had strep throat 3 times.
Oh, no.
And COVID since he's moved there, but he was fully vaccinated. So
Good grief.
it's just been really a
Strep
hard
throat
go.
is not that big of a deal for somebody who does singing for a
Right.
living.
Well, I think that it's also getting used to different things like older buildings he lives in,
Oh, yeah, you got like damp and...
Right.
Yeah,
and
right.
he's
It's
always
New
been like-
York.
He's
Not
getting-
everything's clean.
Where
Yeah.
does he live in? Where's he at?
He lives with 2 girls here from Toledo, actually. that
Drew?
were
Does he
in
live with Drew?
shows. Sorry?
Does he live with Drew?
No, he lives with Emma Korolewski
Oh, okay.
and Belle Johnson. And both of them were his wife in a show here in
how
Toledo
funny.
at some point.
Yeah.
Funny.
So,
All right.
yeah.
So we
But-
telling everybody not to try and get into musical theater?
No.
I would say tell everybody to buckle up. Be prepared is what I was told
Everybody,
by a mom
as
here
in the
locally,
moms,
buckle up.
the moms and dads, or the kids, or everybody?
The parents especially.
The
No
parents,
crap.
I
I
think,
had
Really?
to like
especially, yeah.
reframe my thinking from starting out as I'm going to get my kid on Broadway. I will find whatever coach. I will get him into whatever school I can. We will do all the things like that's hyper competitive. Go, go.
Yep.
And then realizing how little control you have over it.
That's where
and
we're
then
at,
all you can do is
honestly.
prepare your kid.
It's
and,
a free fall.
yeah, and then you just
That's
they
all
they
it
land
is.
where they land. And now I'm at a point like I've kind of already said like. Right, like you. This is a young person's career, and so Mitchell and I have had a lot of conversations about how many people do I know from when I was in New York or when I was in programs who are still acting professionally. I can think of 2, and they're both in Chicago, and both have a partner who has a full-time job to pay for bills and bring in
Insurance.
benefits. Yep.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, just letting them know that theater, and it's so hard because you start with this, like, we're going to get you into U of M and BW, and this is like, you're going to be amazing. And then you start realizing how competitive these programs are. And then you realize after this, it gets more competitive to go try to find a job. And same, like, you'll find your way, and whatever happens. The universe has laid it out. It's all going to work out. Trying to be way more zen and chill, because you're going to drive yourself bonkers getting all wound up because you can't control any of it.
Hence where I am currently in the bunker stage.
Yeah.
And I also think, for me, Jonathan is already successful. He got into a BFA MT program and he graduated.
You should be really proud
Right,
of that,
right.
man.
And he did it in 4 years. I wasn't even close. to graduating in 4 years. So,
And the thing
Amen.
is too, Jenny, is that, and I have told Gabriel, I'm like, he has always been a million times more of a hard worker with a passion for what he does than I ever was. I never cared about anything as much as he does. And as I said, I feel like no matter what program he gets into, it is going to be something that I know he's going to take full advantage of, and he's going to learn everything he can from it. And whatever he does, I'm hoping he's just going to be happy in what he does.
and when
That's what I want.
When Jonathan decided on Wright State, we had a conversation in the car from Pittsburgh. And I said, if this is what you want to do, that's fine, because whatever you put into it is what you're going to get back out of it.
Yep.
And if you don't work hard at Point Park, at U of M, wherever, you're not going to be successful. And Jonathan worked very hard. He was in every main stage show from a freshman. He went out there and he did it.
And let me tell you what, when he gets into a show, we're going to be there in the front freaking row with our little cheer signs.
I know.
I'm telling you right now.
I hope he gets something amazing at some point. We're not sure. That's the thing. It may never happen.
I have seen his posts on social media, though. He looks like he's completely happy right now with the way
Yes.
things are going. And honestly, they're all young. I mean, this is the time when you get to mess around, make mistakes,
sure.
explore things. And I would hate for Gabe not to have explored this and seen what could have been.
Even if they in my opinion, even if they go to school for 4 years and they do shows and they make friends and they get more confident and they get a degree and they went right into banking. What a cool college career to be performing and meeting some of the most dynamic, positive, confident people you've ever met in your life, and making friendships with them and learning how to be fearless and try new things and expand your skills. I just believe so much. The people I know that I went to school with, my undergrad was in vocal music, performance, and theater, and then I worked on my MFA at Michigan State in acting. And everyone I know from those programs, like I said, very few are still performing, but they are the head fundraiser for a symphony out in Nevada, a programmer for Yahoo, and they learn how to do coding, a head salesperson who travels back and forth to Asia for the American Medical Association, the vice president of a bank.
Total losers.
Right, exactly, right? Owns a private practice. They are cool people with tons of energy and motivation and drive, know how to charm anyone, can fake it till they make it in any career they want to. Just really successful, cool people.
Did all of them forget to bring their mom a bean burrito? Because where the hell's your bean burrito?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that dude is taking a long time. I'm I specifically
Rude.
requested a bean burrito with no onion and a nachos Bel Grande.
That was 45 minutes ago.
That's I got to have something to soak up this lemontini over here.
Was he still at school though when he sent you that?
He
message?
left rehearsal because they don't get out of rehearsal until about 6:15, 6:30.
Is he having a blast? Is he loving it?
Oh, he does.
He always does.
He loves it.
'Cause
And
this
you
is what
know
he loves
what?
doing.
And he
Yeah.
specifically was very careful about this show. They were very good about bringing in people to make sure that he could portray the part with respect,
Sure.
and accurately. And that
Yeah.
was really, really important to him. So
But-
The fact that he loves performing so much brings me to another thought, which is, and this was something to consider when you're looking at schools. Some schools you can't be in a show for the first
Nope.
2 years you're there.
Nope, you
and
can't.
and for some kids that's a deal breaker, and they don't
That was a
want
deal
that.
breaker for
They want to
Jonathan.
do shows. And some other people like Carnegie Mellon. Nope, you don't get to do anything until you're a junior.
Oh.
Some kids they don't want to do that. And
I
other
didn't know
kids
that.
want that
Jonathan
training,
didn't
so they're
audition
willing.
at those schools too. I mean, he knew that going in, and that was nope. That was one of the reasons he didn't want to go. So, you got to, I think knowing those things about yourself is important too. And having somebody have the right questions so that you can pick the right school is going to make all the difference in the world for your experience.
Thank you. That was a lot. That was a lot of information. And that's, the one thing I do know after this entire discussion is that there's no way that we covered it all. There's just absolutely no way we covered it all. So this is one of those podcast episodes where if you have questions, message us. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Just message us. We're more than happy to answer questions. And I already talked to the ladies here, and they are all cool with answering questions. So I know we skipped stuff. So we did our best. This thing could have gone on for hours, I think. So, okay, well, again, hope you enjoyed that episode. If you like what you hear on these podcasts all the time, please go ahead and go to Apple. Give us a 5-star review. Say you love us. And thanks for listening. As always, bye.